Sister Mary. We are going to begin the book of Judges today, and I want to remind everybody that we are reading out of the Interlinear Bible, which is the Hebrew and the Aramaic translation of the Old Testament. God bless you, and thank you for listening to today's reading. Judges chapter 1. And it happened after the death of Joshua, the sons of Israel inquired of Jehovah, saying, Who shall first go up for us against the Canaanites, to fight against them? And Jehovah said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have given the land into his hand. And Judah said to his brother Simon, Go up with me into my lot, and we shall fight against the Canaanites. And I also will go with you into your lot. And Simon went with him, and Judah went up. And Jehovah delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their land. And they struck them in Bezek, 10,000 men. And they found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek, and fought against him, and struck the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and Adoni-Bezek fled. And they pursued him and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and his big toes. And Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and their big toes cut off used to be gathering scraps under my table. As I have done, so God has repaid me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And the sons of Judah fought against Jerusalem and captured it, and struck it with the edge of the sword, and set the city on fire. And afterward the sons of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites who inhabited Hebron. And the name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba. And they struck Sheshaiah, and Iamin, and Tamiah. And from there he went against the inhabitants of Debir. And the name of Debir before was Kirjath Sepher. And Caleb said, He who strikes Kirjath Sepher and captures it, I will give to him my daughter Akasa for a wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's brother, the younger one, captured it, and he gave his daughter Acacia to him for a wife. And it happened as she came, she persuaded him to ask for a field from her father, and she alighted from the ass, and Caleb said to her, What for you? And she said to him, Give a blessing to me, the land of Negeb. Also you shall give springs of water to me and Caleb. Or water to me. And Caleb gave the upper springs and the lower springs to her. And the sons of the Kenat, the father-in-law of Moses, had gone up out of the city of Palms with the sons of Judah to the wilderness of Judah, which is in the south of Arid. And they went and lived with the people. And Judah went with his brother Simon, and they struck the Canaanites inhabiting Zephath, and destroyed it. And the name of the city was called Hormah. And Judah captured Gaza and its border, and Ashelon and its border, and Ekron and its border, and Jehovah was with Judah. And he occupied the hills, but did not expel the inhabitants of the valley, for they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb. And Moses had said, and he expelled the 3 sons of Anak from there. And the sons of Benjamin did not expel the Jebusites living in Jerusalem. And the Jebusites live with the sons of Benjamin in Jerusalem until this day. And the house of Joseph went up, they also against Bethel, and Jehovah was with them. And the house of Joseph sent to spy around Bethel, and the name of the city formerly was Luz. And the guard saw a man coming out from the city, and said to him, Please show us the entrance of the city, and we will deal with you with mercy. And he showed them the entrance of the city. And they struck the city with the mouth of the sword. And they sent away the man and all his family. And the man went to the land of the Hittites and built a city, and called its name Luz. And it is its name to this day. And Manasseh had not occupied Bethshean and its daughter villages, or Tanakh and its daughter villages, nor struck the inhabitants of Dor and its daughter villages, or the inhabitants of Iblim and its daughter villages, or the inhabitants of Megiddo and its daughter villages, for the Canaanites desired to live in that land. But when Israel became strong, it happened that they put the Canaanite to tribute, but did not completely expel it. And Ephraim did not expel the Canaanite who lived in Gezer, and the Canaanites lived among them in Gezer. Zebulun did not expel the inhabitants of Kitron and the inhabitants of Nahalol, but the Canaanites lived among them, and they became burden bearers. And Asher did not expel the inhabitants of Achor, or Achor, or Acho, and the inhabitants of Sidon, and Aleb, and Achzib, and Helba, and Aphik, and Rehob. And the Asherites lived among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not expel them. Naphtali did not expel the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, and the inhabitants of Bethanath, and they lived among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land. But the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh and Bethanath became burden bearers to them. And the Amorites pressed the sons of Dan into the hills, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. But the Amorites were determined to live in Mount Heres, in Ajalon, and in Shalbim. Yet the hand of the house of Joseph prevailed, so that they became burden bearers. And the border of the Amorites was from the ascent of Akrabim, from the rock and upward. Chapter 2 of Judges. And the angel of Jehovah came up from Gilgal to the place of weeping, and said, I caused you to come up out of Egypt, and brought you into the land which I had sworn to your fathers, and said, I shall not break my covenant with you forever, and you shall cut no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall break down their altars, yet you have not listened to my voice. What is this you have done? And I also have said, I have not driven them out before you, or I shall not drive them out before you. And they shall become adversaries to you, and their God shall become a snare to you. And it happened when the angel of Jehovah spoke these words to all the sons of Israel, the people lifted up their voice and wept. And they called the name of that place, the place of weeping, and they sacrificed to Jehovah there. And Joshua sent the people away, and the sons of Israel each went to his inheritance to possess the land. And the people served Jehovah all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders who prolonged their days after Joshua, who saw all the great work of Jehovah which he had done for Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Jehovah, died, being a son of 110 years. And they buried him in the border of his inheritance, in Timnath Heres, in the hills of Ephraim, on the north of Mount Gaish. And all that generation was gathered to their fathers, and another generation rose up after them, who had not known Jehovah, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. And the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of Jehovah, and served the Baals. And they forsook Jehovah, the God of their fathers, who brought them out from the land of Egypt. And they went after other gods of the people who were around them, and bowed themselves to them, and angered Jehovah. Yea, they forsook Jehovah, and served Baal and the Asheroths. And the anger of Jehovah burned against Israel, and he gave them into the hand of the plunderers. And they plundered them, and he sold them into the hand of their enemies all around. And they were not able to stand before their enemies any longer. Wherever they went, the hand of Jehovah was against them for evil, as Jehovah had spoken, and as Jehovah had sworn to them. And it distressed them very much, and Jehovah raised up judges, and they saved them from the hand of their plunderers. But they also did not listen to their judges, but went whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves to them. They quickly turned aside out of the way in which their fathers walked, to obey the commands of Jehovah. They did not do so. And when Jehovah raised up judges to them, then Jehovah was with the judge and rescued them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For Jehovah took pity because of their groanings before their oppressors, and those that crushed them. And at the death of the judge, it happened that they would turn and act more corruptly than their fathers, to go after other gods to serve them, and to bow themselves to them. And they did not fall away from their own doings, and from their stubborn way. And the anger of Jehovah glowed against Israel. And he said, Because this nation has transgressed my covenant which I commanded their fathers, and has not listened to my voice, I also from now on will not drive out any from before them of the nations that Joshua left when he died, so that by them I may test Israel, whether they are keeping the way of Jehovah to go in it, as their fathers kept it, or not. And Jehovah left those nations without driving them out quickly, and he did not deliver them into the hand of Joshua. Judges chapter 3. And these are the nations which Jehovah left in order to test Israel by them, all who did not know all the wars of Canaan, only that the generations of the sons of Israel might know, to teach them war, only those who did not before know them, 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites that lived in Mount Lebanon, and Mount Baal Hermon, to entering of Hamath. And they existed to test Israel by them, to know whether they would listen to the commands of Jehovah, which he had commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. And the sons of Israel lived among the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And they took their daughters to them for wives, and gave their daughters to their sons. And they served their gods. And the sons of Israel did that which was evil in the sight of Jehovah, and forgot Jehovah their God, and served the Baals and the pillars. And the anger of Jehovah glowed against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the sons of Israel served Cushan-Rishathaim 8 years. And when the sons of Israel cried to Jehovah, Jehovah raised up a deliverer to the sons of Israel, Othniel the son of Kenaz, the younger brother of Caleb, and he saved them. And the Spirit of Jehovah was on him, and he judged Israel, and he went out to war. And Jehovah gave Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Syria, into his hand. And his hand prevailed over Cushan-Rishathaim, and the land had rest 40 years. And Othniel the son of Kenaz died. And the sons of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Jehovah. And Jehovah made strong Eglon the king of Moab against Israel, because they had done evil in the eyes of Jehovah. And he gathered to him the sons of Ammon and Amalek, and they went and struck Israel, and they possessed the land of palm trees. And the sons of Israel served Eglon king of Moab 18 years. And the sons of Israel cried to Jehovah, and Jehovah raised up a deliverer to them, Ehud, the son of Gera, son of a Benjamite, a man impeded in his right hand. And the sons of Israel sent a present by his hand to Eglon, king of Moab. And Ehud made for himself a sword, and it had 2 edges, a cubit in length, and he girded it under his long robe on his right thigh. And he brought the present to Eglon, the king of Moab, and Eglon was a very fat man. And it happened, when he had finished offering the present, he sent away the people, the bearers of the present. And he himself turned back from the carved image at Gilgal, and said, I have a secret word for you, O king. And he said, Be silent. And all those standing beside him went out from him. And Ehud came to him, and he was sitting by himself in the cool roof room which he had. And Ehud said, I have a message from God to you. And he rose out of his seat. And Ehud put out his left hand, and took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into Eglon's belly. And the haft also went in after the blade, and the fat closed on the blade, for he did not draw the sword out of his belly. And it came out behind. Then Ehud went out to the porch, and shut the doors of the roof room on him, and locked them. And when he had gone out, his servants came, and they looked, and behold, the doors of the roof room were locked. And they said, Surely he is covering his feet in the cool roof room. And they waited until they were ashamed. And behold, he did not open the doors of the room. So they took the key and opened them. And behold, their master had fallen down to the earth dead. And Ehud escaped while they waited, and he passed by the images, and had slipped away to Sirath. And it happened, when he had come, he blew a horn in the hills of Ephraim, and the sons of Israel came down with him from the hills, and he before them. And he said to them, Follow me, for Jehovah has delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the lords of the Jordan against the Moabites. And they did not allow a man to pass over. And they struck about 10,000 men of Moab at that time, every lusty man, all mighty men, and not a man escaped. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel. And the land had rest 80 years. And after him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who struck 600 men of the Philistines with an ox goad. And he also delivered Israel. Chapter 4 of Judges. And the sons of Israel did evil again in the sight of Jehovah when Ehud was dead. And Jehovah sold them into the hand of Jabin, the king of Canaan, who ruled in Hazor. And his army commander was Sisera, and he lived in Harosheth of the nations. And the sons of Israel cried to Jehovah, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and he mightily oppressed the sons of Israel 20 years. And Deborah, the wife of Leppidoth, a woman prophetess, was judging Israel at that time. And she lived under the palm tree of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel, in the hills of Ephraim. And the sons of Israel went up to her for judgment. And she sent and called for Barak, the son of Abinoam, out of Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Has not Jehovah the God of Israel commanded, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali, and of the sons of Zebulun with you, and I will draw to you at the Kishon River Sisera, the army commander of Jabin, and his chariots and his multitude, and shall give him into your hands. And Barak said to her, If you will go with me, then I will go, and if you will not go with me, I will not go. And she said, I will certainly go with you, only your glory shall surely not be on the way which you are going. For Jehovah shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah rose up and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali together to Kadesh. And he went up with 10,000 men at his feet. And Deborah went up with him. And Heber the Canaanite had broken away from the Canaanites, he being of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses. And he pitched his tent by the oak of Zenaim near Kadesh. And they told Sisera that Barak, the son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera mustered all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all people who were with him from Harosheth of the nations to the Kishon River. And Deborah said to Barak, Rise up, for this is the day in which Jehovah has given Sisera into your hand. Has not Jehovah gone out before you? And Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. And Jehovah routed Sisera, and all the chariots, and all the army by the mouth of the sword, before Barak. And Sisera came down from the chariot, and fled on his feet. And Barak pursued the chariots, and went after the army to Harosheth of the nations. And all the army of Sisera fell by the mouth of the sword. There was not even one left. And Sisera fled on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin the king of Hazor and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said to him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, do not fear. And he turned into her into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. And he said to her, Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a skin of milk, and gave him drink, and covered him. And he said to her, Stand at the door of the tent, and it shall be, if anyone comes in and asks you, and says, Is there a man here? Then you shall say, There is not. And Jael, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg, and took a hammer in her hand, and went to him quietly. And she drove the peg into his temple, and she beat it into the ground. And he had been fast asleep, and faint, and he died. And behold, as Barak followed Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said to him, Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. And he came into her, and behold, Sisera had fallen dead with the peg in his temple. And on that day God humbled Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the sons of Israel. And the hand of the sons of Israel went on, going on and pressing hard on Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had cut off Jabin, the king of Canaan. Chapter 5 of Judges. And Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang on that day, saying, For the losing of locks of hair in Israel, for the willing offer of the people. Bless Jehovah. Listen, O kings, give ear, O princes. I, even I, will sing to Jehovah. I will sing praise to Jehovah, the God of Israel. O Jehovah, when you went forth out of Seir, when you marched out of the fields of Edom, the earth trembled, and the heavens dropped. Yea, the clouds dropped water. The mountains quaked before the face of Jehovah. This Sinai quaked from before Jehovah, the God of Israel, in the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath. In the days of Jael, the highway ceased, and those going in the paths traveled in byways. The leaders ceased in Israel. They ceased until I, Deborah, arose. I arose as a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. Then war was at the gates. Neither a shield nor a spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart was toward the lawgivers of Israel, who freely offered themselves among the people. Bless Jehovah. You that ride on white asses, you that sit on rich carpets, and you travelers on the way, sing out louder than the voice of the dividers between the watering places. There they shall tell of the righteous acts of Jehovah, the righteous acts of his leaders in Israel. Then the people of Jehovah went down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, utter a song. Rise, Barak, and lead your captives captive. Son of Abinoam. Then he caused me to tread on the remnant of the noble ones of the people. Jehovah trod for me among the warriors. Out of Ephraim they came, those whose root was against Amalek. After you, Benjamin, among your people, and out of Machir came down commanders, and out of Zebulun the ones that hold the staff of the scribe. And my commanders in Issachar were with Deborah, as was Issachar, so was Barak. They were sent into the valley at his feet. Among the divisions of Reuben, resolves of heart were great. Why did you sit between the sheepfolds to hear the bleatings of flocks? At the divisions of Reuben, searching of heart were great. Gilead remained before the Jordan. And why did Dan stay in ships? Asher sat at the shore by the water and remained by the havens. Zebulun, a people who despised his life even to death. Also Naphtali on the high place of the field. Kings came, they fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought in Tanakh. By the waters of Megiddo, they took no gain of silver. The stars fought from the heavens. From their courses they fought with Sisera. The Kishon River swept them away. The ancient river, the Kishon River, my soul, you trampled in strength. Then did the hooves of horses beat from the galloping of his mighty stallions. Curse, Meroz, said the angel of Jehovah. Curse its inhabitants bitterly, because they did not come to the help of Jehovah. To the help of Jehovah against the warriors. Most blessed among women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. She is blessed among women in the tent. He asked for water, she gave him milk. In a lordly bowl she brought curd. She put her hand in the tent peg, or to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's hammer, and she hammered Sisera, and smashed his head. She struck through and pierced his temple. Between her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay down. Between her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, then he fell down, ruined. Through the window she looked out. Yea, she cried out, the mother of Sisera. Through the lattice, why does this chariot delay to come? Why have the steps of his chariot tarried? The wise ones of her princes answered her. Yea, she turned her words to herself. Do they not find and divide the plunder? A womb, 2 wombs to each man's head, a plunderer of dyed garments. I got 2 pages that turned at one time. To Sisera, a plunder of embroidered dyed garments, 2 embroidered dyed garments for the necks of the plunderer. So all your enemies shall perish, O Jehovah, and those who love him shall be as the sun when it goes forth in its might. And the land had rest 40 years. Thank you for joining me for the daily reading in Judges. If it be the Lord's will, tomorrow we will continue in chapter 6 onward. God bless you, and may the Lord keep you this day. May he even keep you from the appearance of evil. In Jesus' mighty name. Father, I pray ministering angels to go before and after your children. In Jesus' name. Everybody have a blessed and a restful Saturday in the Lord. God bless you.